चल हो जा शुरू।
केसरिया से मन जोगी हुआ रे, दिल झूमे देखो पतवारा हुआ रे, दिल झूमे देखो पतवारा हुआ रे।
हर पल मनाओ केसरी त्योहार। विमल, बोलो जुबान केसरी।
Let's cut across to the live visuals that are coming in from Italy. Prime Minister Modi, who is seen at the G7 summit venue. Note, it is day 2 of the G7 summit. Prime Minister Modi has been invited as a special guest. As we speak, a lot of engagements lined up for the Prime Minister all through the day, which includes a lot of bilaterals with the world leaders, including President Biden and other world leaders as well. So a packed schedule for the Prime Minister at the G7 summit. It is day 2, note. And there is a lot that is expected, be it the discussion on climate change, the discussion that also includes the tensions in the Middle East and the Russia-Ukraine war. So from the European tensions in the European countries to the tensions in the Middle East, it is a packed schedule. As we speak, you see the engagements there. The Prime Minister, who's seen interacting with the world leaders, he's seen engaging with Emmanuel Macron. He will also be holding later in the day bilaterals with the world leaders. All right, we will just go across to Abhishek as well to get us a detailed insight on what can be expected all through the day. But yes, the Prime Minister is seen engaging with the world leaders. Abhishek is through. Abhishek, take us through the details of what can be expected through the day as Prime Minister is in Italy.
I believe we're getting pictures of Prime Minister Narendra Modi having a one-on-one meeting with President Macron of France and Emmanuel Macron. I believe this is his first one-on-one meeting. And immediately after this, he goes into a bilateral with Rishi Sunak, the Prime Minister of United Kingdom. And this is going to go on for the rest of the day. In fact, after the meeting with Rishi Sunak, there is a bilateral planned with President Joe Biden. That happens at around 12 noon Italy time, which is going to be about 3:30 or 4 p.m. India time. It seems the meetings are running about half an hour behind the schedule, but in the pictures, I think we are seeing Prime Minister there receiving Emmanuel Macron. These pictures seems to be from earlier. In fact, I am told that the meeting with Emmanuel Macron is underway, and we are having Prime Minister going to have back-to-back engagements. First up, it's Emmanuel Macron, then it's Rishi Sunak, and then it's going to be President Joe Biden. And subsequently, there's going to be he will be going for the G7 summit participation in the outreach session at Borgo Ignazia. And then there would be a welcome photo with Italy's Prime Minister of all the delegations together. It's called the family photo. And then Prime Minister again has bilaterals lined up. So, for example, with German Chancellor Olaf Scholz, and then you have a bilateral with the Prime Minister Giorgia Meloni of Italy. And then you have a polar side meeting with Justin Trudeau, Canada. Apart from that, there is a bilateral planned with Prime Minister Kishida of Japan. Essentially, what we are seeing is that, except for Canada, these are all one-on-one bilaterals with all these leaders who are participating in the G7 summit. And after all these bilaterals end, Prime Minister essentially would be heading back to New Delhi. It's a short visit, overall 24 hours since he left. And by the time he's back, just about 36 hours, and he would have met all these world leaders. I believe Prime Minister is receiving those leaders from the bilaterals at his own venue, and that's why we are seeing him standing. He just bid a goodbye to another leader, and it seems we're getting those repeaters where we are missing out on which dignitary the Prime Minister met or who's coming next. But Prime Minister there is spending a very hectic 24 hours, like it does in most of such on most of such occasions, engaging with world leaders one-on-one also to further the bilateral agenda and the partnership between the two respective nations. In this case, of course, G7 is an influential grouping. Apart from that, India has very durable, long-term, friendly relationships, partnerships with each of these nations individually. And so in the fitness of things that on his first visit abroad after taking over for the third term, Prime Minister meeting all these or gets to meet these leaders. Remember, Europe is passing through a great tumult, and it's a war, and there are all signs that the war seems to be escalating rather than de-escalating. And in that scenario, any deliberations, any engagement which can calm down tempers should be welcome. Prime Minister, they're taking a break in between his bilaterals. We are told that the bilateral with President Emmanuel Macron has just ended, and he's, I believe, waiting for Rishi Sunak to arrive so that bilateral starts. And immediately after that, there would be a bilateral with President Joe Biden. And then, of course, the G7 outreach session, for which Prime Minister has been invited, and he would be participating there. And the rest of the bilaterals with the German Chancellor Olaf Scholz and Prime Minister Giorgia Meloni and Prime Minister Kishida of Japan, among others, to be taking place later in a reflection kind of strained ties we are going through. Okay, these are pictures from earlier when Prime Minister received Emmanuel Macron at his hotel, and this bilateral, I believe, has also ended. And the next one with the Rishi Sunak is yet to start. And as I was mentioning, while G7 remains an influential group, the locus of decision-making seems to be shifting to a more broad-based and collective group like G20, which India headed in 2023, and the G20 summit that we had with all these world leaders coming in to New Delhi in the month of September last year. So we are continuing to get these pictures live from Italy in Puglia, where this G7 summit is taking place. There is a strong overhang of the war in Europe between Russia and Ukraine, with both sides really doubling down, and no sign whatsoever that the war is going to end anytime soon. In fact, with the just concluded European Union elections, the fact that a good number of nations in Europe are going to see a change of government, or at least elections going in, I believe the discussion on war is going to be the most substantive part of the G7 summit, and Prime Minister, of course,